You're losing. And the worst part? You don't even know you're playing. This isn't just life. It's a battlefield disguised as a chessboard. And while you're out here distracted, chasing likes, attention, validation, the game is already underway. Moves are being made, pieces are falling, and you're standing there, unaware, thinking it's all just another day.
But this isn't some elegant game on a marble table, with wine glasses clinking and soft music in the background. Your game is silent. It's brutal, played in the dark, with rules you were never taught, and pieces you don't know how to move. You've been making choices out of fear, not strategy. You've been reacting, not leading, and the worst of it, you don't even know what piece you are. Are you the pawn, the queen, the king, or just another spectator, hoping to be something more? You've spent so much time pretending to be strong, pretending to be smart, pretending to have it all figured out, that you've forgotten the one truth that actually matters. Your role is to survive. Your purpose is to protect what truly matters. Your mission is to play with intention, not noise. But you keep moving like it's all about progress. Forward, 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 even if you're sprinting into a wall. Let me tell you something. The king, he doesn't need to move much. He doesn't win by force. He wins by knowing who he is. And you've forgotten. Every morning you wake up thinking you have something to prove. To strangers, to friends, to people who don't even care. You're trying to control the entire board when you haven't even mastered your own mind. Here's the truth you keep avoiding. You are the king, not because of how fast you move, not because of how loud you speak, but because without you, everything falls apart. So why have you placed your value in the hands of people who don't even know your worth? Why are you chasing noise when you were built for strategy? You've been fooled into thinking that success means controlling everything, that real power comes from having all the answers, that winning means being everywhere, doing everything, never slowing down. That's not strength. That's noise. True strength. It's quiet. It's measured. It's intentional. But you've been running and chasing, performing. Like life is some performance, and you're the actor who can't forget his lines. You think showing strength makes you invincible? But tell me this, how strong can you be if you don't know how to protect your own peace? You've been moving like a machine, ticking boxes, grinding day after day. But for what? For a title? A paycheck? Applause? None of that means anything if you're empty inside. None of that matters if your soul is bleeding behind a smile. The real problem isn't that you haven't succeeded. The real problem is this: you have no direction. And without direction, distraction becomes your master. Because when you don't know what you're fighting for, everything becomes a fight. Every opinion feels like a threat. Every failure feels like the end. But listen, a good player never starts by studying the enemy. He starts by knowing himself. He knows where he stands, what he protects, what cannot be sacrificed, no matter the cost. Because if you don't know who you are, you won't even realize when you're losing. So here's the question you should have asked yourself a long time ago. What are you really defending? And don't give me the surface stuff. My job, my image, my reputation. That's air. That's smoke. That's nothing. What truly matters is what can't be seen. Your mental health, your emotional balance, your values, your peace. That's your real kingdom. That's what must never fall. But you've been ignoring it. You've been hiding it behind achievements, covering it up with goals that don't even belong to you. You treat success like it's applause, when it should be peace. You think admiration equals self-worth, when it only distracts you from your emptiness. Because here's a brutal truth. The world can cheer you on while you're dying inside. What good is a powerful queen if your king, you, is collapsing? You've been playing like a rook, fast, aggressive, unstoppable. But you're not a rook. You're the king. And the king doesn't win by attacking. He wins by enduring, by waiting, by choosing when to move and when to stand still. Because the king, who rushes blindly across the board, he dies first. Every time you betray your gut just to fit in, every time you silence your truth to be accepted, every time you pretend to be okay when you're breaking inside, you're moving your king into check, an invisible one. And you don't even see it because it doesn't look like danger. It looks like approval. It looks like applause. It looks like being liked. But every time you choose to please others over protecting your own peace, you leave your soul wide open, unguarded, exposed, and bleeding. And then you wonder, why can't I find peace? Here's the reason. You've built walls on the outside, but inside, everything is crumbling. You've armored yourself with image, but not with identity. You've obsessed over how to move others, without once stopping to ask what you're willing to not move. You want to control the whole board, but you've forgotten the most important piece, you. The game isn't out there. It never was. The real battle is within. And you don't need to master others. You need to master yourself, because only someone who knows themselves, truly knows themselves, can create a strategy that won't destroy them in the process. Only someone who understands their value can protect what's essential and stop trading diamonds for dust. And here's the painful truth. Those who don't know their worth, they give everything away for nothing. And worse, they do it with a smile. How long will you keep selling your peace just to belong? How long will you disguise your anxiety as ambition? How long will you call stress success just because it looks good on the outside? This game you're playing, it's not about domination. It's about preservation. It's not about winning the crowd. It's about not losing yourself in the process. Because when the king falls, the game ends. So why are you risking the most important piece on the board just to impress people who don't even know the rules? You keep looking outward, blaming circumstances, people, bad luck, the economy, the timing. But the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face isn't in front of you. It's inside you. It's not loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't kick down the door and announce its presence. Number. It whispers. It slips into your thoughts when you're tired, when you're scared, when you're alone, and it says things like, you're not ready. You're going to fail. Better to stay where it's safe. Better not to try. And you listen, not because it's true, but because it sounds familiar. Because that voice has been repeating itself for so long, you started to believe it was you. But let me tell you something. That voice is not you. You are the one hearing it. And if you can hear it, you can change it. You can interrupt the pattern. You can reclaim the board. You can choose a different move. Real leadership doesn't start when you lead others. It begins the moment you lead your own mind, when you learn to silence fear, when you stop reacting, when you move with clarity, even when chaos surrounds you, because chaos isn't going anywhere. Life will always be messy, unpredictable, loud, but what changes is how you move through it. The world worships winners, but it remembers the ones who endured without losing their soul. Because success without peace is just noise. A victory parade with no one inside the car. It's a crown that cuts deeper than it shines. So ask yourself, do you want to win for the world to see? Or do you want to stand for something even when no one is watching? Because only one of those leads to freedom. And no, this isn't about being bulletproof. It's about being self-aware. It's about knowing your limits and protecting them with grace. You don't have to be invulnerable, but you do have to stop hiding from yourself. Because if you don't, you'll sell your peace for pennies. And let me tell you, once you lose your center, no victory will ever feel real again. Let me ask you something. Why do you think some people can't be controlled? Why do you think some walk into a room without saying a word, and suddenly everything feels different? It's not money. It's not followers. It's not charisma. It's clarity. Because clarity? That's what makes you dangerous in a world addicted to confusion. Most people walk around begging for direction, begging for approval, begging for something, anything, to give them identity. Touch their ego, they collapse. Deny them attention, they shrink. Offer them fake validation, they sell their soul with a smile. But the one who's done the inner work, who's visited their shadows and made peace with them, that person is untouchable. You can't buy them. You can't scare them. You can't tempt them with applause or silence them with rejection, because they don't need to belong. They already belong to themselves. And that's the shift. Most people are chasing power. The power to dominate, to influence, to accumulate. But that kind of power? It's hollow. It needs to be fed. It's fragile because it depends on something outside. Real power is internal. It's not loud. It doesn't beg to be seen. It's quiet, rooted, unshakable. It's the ability to look in the mirror and say, this is who I am. This is what I protect. And this is what I will never compromise. That's the kind of clarity that makes you ungovernable. And the truth, most people will never reach it. Why? Because clarity is earned. You bleed for it. You sacrifice for it. You sit with yourself in the silence, in the discomfort, in the truth, until the fog lifts. And when it does, you don't just walk through life, you cut through it like a blade. You stop chasing every shiny object. You stop reacting to every opinion. You stop giving energy to anything that doesn't align with your core. And the world will notice. They'll feel it before they understand it. Because in a crowd of people lost in noise, the one who walks with purpose, that's the real threat. Look around. Most people aren't living. They're performing, acting out a script someone else wrote. A life that looks successful from the outside, but feels empty on the inside. And the scariest part? They don't even know it. They wake up to alarms they didn't set, chase goals they didn't choose, and measure themselves with standards they didn't create. They're not moving by strategy. They're moving by reflex. And here's what no one tells you. When you live like that, you can win all the trophies, get all the applause, tick every box, and still lose the game. Because deep down, you know the truth. You're not playing for you. You're playing for acceptance. You're moving so you don't get left behind. You're achieving just to prove you're not invisible. But ask yourself, whose voice are you really listening to? Whose dream are you actually chasing? Whose rules are you trying so hard to follow? Because if you don't answer those questions honestly, you'll spend your life winning a game that was never yours to begin with. You'll wake up one day, look in the mirror, and realize you don't recognize the person staring back. You've become a stranger to yourself, a pawn wearing a king's crown, a mimic of purpose, living off borrowed meaning. That's checkmate, not the dramatic kind, not the one where everything explodes in one moment, but the slow kind. The kind where your soul dies a little every day, from routine, from silence, from the unbearable weight of pretending. That's what happens when you trade clarity for comfort. When you trade who you are for who the world says you should be. You keep asking, what do I need to do? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, what do I need to protect? Because this isn't about doing more. It's about guarding what matters most. And no, I'm not talking about guarding your bank account, your title, your social status. I'm talking about your center, your mind, your emotional health, your integrity, your purpose. That part of you that no one sees, but everything depends on. The part that's quietly begging for rest while you chase another deadline. The part that's screaming for truth while you're busy pretending you're fine. The part that knows, deep down, that the real game isn't about how many pieces you move. It's about whether you protect the one piece that can't be replaced. You, because you can rebuild a business. You can repair a relationship. You can recover lost time. But if your inner world collapses, none of it will matter. The board might still look good. You might still be standing. But inside, the king has already fallen. And here's the irony. You've been so busy building walls to impress the world that you forgot to build a castle to protect your soul. You've guarded your image, but left your peace wide open. You've trained your mind to hustle, but not to heal. And that's why everything feels off. That's why you're always tired, always reaching, always searching for something that never quite satisfies. Because you're feeding the surface, while the core starves in silence. So let's get real. Take care of your mind not because you're weak, but because you're essential. Protect your emotional clarity, not to shut others out, but to stop losing yourself in their noise. You don't need louder goals. You need quieter confidence. You don't need to fight harder. You need to listen closer. Because once you understand what you're protecting, everything changes. You stop chasing, you start choosing, you stop reacting, you start creating, you stop playing for approval, and start playing for peace. You ever wonder why it's so hard to feel peace, even when everything seems to be going right? It's because there are thieves living in your head. They don't break in, you invite them. Doubt, fear, comparison, silent, constant, relentless. And little by little, they steal your clarity. Not all at once, but quietly, like a leak in the roof. You don't notice until everything's soaked. One moment, you're confident. The next, you're questioning everything. You were walking your own path until you saw someone else's highlight reel, and suddenly yours didn't feel good enough. You knew what mattered to you. Until fear whispered, "What if it's not enough?" And just like that, your steps got shaky. Your direction blurred. You started walking like everyone else. Not because it felt right, but because it felt safe. And that's how people lose the game. Not with a crash, but with a compromise. They trade their vision for validation. They trade their truth for trends. They trade their voice for volume, just to be part of the noise. But here's what you need to remember. Doubt is not your enemy until you let it decide for you. Fear isn't fatal until you start bowing to it. Comparison isn't the problem until you stop being you and start trying to be them. This world is full of distractions, but clarity doesn't come from avoiding them. It comes from choosing in spite of them. Because when you know who you are, you don't flinch every time a new trend shows up. You don't question your worth just because someone else got there faster. You don't collapse when life gets hard because you're not just walking, you're anchored, rooted in intention, protected by vision, driven by something deeper than noise. And that kind of clarity, it doesn't need defending. It is the defense. You've made it this far, not by accident, not by chance, but because something inside you, a voice you've ignored for too long, finally got louder than the noise. That voice is your truth, and it's not whispering anymore. It's asking, are you ready to stop moving aimlessly and start playing with intention? Because this isn't just a motivational video. This is your turning point. Right here, right now. You don't need more time. You don't need a better plan. You need a decision. A decision to protect your peace like it's your crown. To guard your purpose like it's your last breath. To stop sacrificing your king for the illusion of being liked. Because when you lose your king, the game is over. But when you protect him, you become unshakable. This is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. Ask yourself, what have I been neglecting that I should have been protecting all along? Your clarity, your boundaries, your truth? Because when you start protecting what truly matters, even your smallest move becomes powerful. You don't need the crowd. You don't need the spotlight. You don't even need applause. You just need intention. Because the world can't manipulate someone who knows what they stand for. So don't play to win the world. Play to stay whole. Play to stay awake. Play to stay you. This isn't about hype. This isn't about motivation. It's about ownership. Brick by brick. Principle by principle. A quiet empire built from within. And if you've heard any part of this that made you pause, even for a second, then this message was meant for you. So let me leave you with this. Go to the comments and write, "My king doesn't give up. Not for me, not for anyone else, for you." Because that phrase, that's a vow. That's your moment of clarity, written in stone. And when life gets loud again, when distractions try to steal your focus, when fear comes knocking, you'll remember this moment, and you'll know exactly what to protect. So subscribe, not just to this channel. Subscribe to yourself, because the board is set, the game is real, and now you move with intention. See you in the silence between the next move.